Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast on what we are calling the Day of Comebacks. I'm your host Ashwin. I'm joined by DJ. As tends to happen with some of these games, it's late night Varun's time, but we wanted to record quickly. DJ, let me start by asking. There's three great comebacks today. Can we just focus our episode on the two that are more fun? One, West Indies beating the Australians at the Gabba. The fortress has been breached again. And two, I've just come off of watching 5 hours of a recorded Australian Open, also in Australian Open, the men's final, where Yannick Sinner was down by 2 sets and then came back to win 5. That's it. That's all we got to talk about, right? There's nothing else we need to talk about as an Indian cricket podcast.
Yeah, I don't know what was there any other cricket going on?
No, let's just talk about West Indies and the great story that was Shemar Joseph and
Yeah, it was an important 7 for today. The most important 7
the
for
most,
was
the only
Shemar
7
Joseph
for. What are you
one,
talking
yeah.
about? There's nothing
Yeah,
else
it's pretty
to
good.
talk.
Pretty good.
We'll probably lose a lot of listeners. I know there are a lot of our British listeners and our friends who are British have tuned in specifically for this episode. So we have to talk about I don't think Hyderabad was ever a fortress, but the breach of, call it India at home, an Indian home dominance by a Ben Stokes England side. That I honestly don't even know where to go with this. Why do we start with kind of what happened, DJ? We squandered the largest lead at home that India has ever had in a losing cause. Second, I think, with 2001 Eden Gardens obviously being the exception, and in that case we won the match, so it doesn't count. So this was probably the largest in a losing cause. What happened, man? Did you predict us being 0-1 down in a 5-match series against England at home with a arguably slightly weakened England lineup?
I mean, I predicted a 3-1 scoreline at the end of the
So
series.
you're still on. You're still technically
I'm still technically on, I
Yeah.
suppose.
Yeah.
It makes it a little bit harder because now India need to win 3 matches and there needs to be 1 draw match. I mean, we should probably rewind to before the game even started. There were visa issues, right, around the other spinner, let's say, who may become relevant.
Who, by the way, I mean, no disrespect intended to the kid, but it wasn't really on the radar too much. When his selection happened, a lot of people were saying, "What is this? Why have we selected this kid?" And then when he had a visa concern, everybody said India's doing this on purpose to try to give themselves an advantage in the series. It was like, I mean, ultimately England still won, so it doesn't.
Yeah.
Clearly, the absence didn't matter too much, right?
Yeah, Shoaib Bashir, of course, I think born in Pakistan or Pakistan origin, wasn't given a visa by the Indian authorities, or it's now been granted. It was delayed. He couldn't make it for the first game. And so this other unknown dude, Tom Hartley, I don't know, no one's really ever heard of him. Picked for his high release point and his pace and his stats, made his debut. The other big news for the India side was
Yeah, I was trying to
Virat
before
Kohli,
you did
right?
that, I was trying to figure out if Tom Hartley had any connection to Alex Hartley, but I don't think I was able to find on the women's cricketer. But I had no idea. But anyway, interesting.
Yeah, the other big news, of course, from the Indian point of view was Virat Kohli was going to miss the first 2 test matches, right, for personal reasons. I don't know whether there's been an update on that. I have no idea what's happened there. Hopefully everything's okay with Virat and his family. Harry Brookett, of course, pulled out just before the tour started as well. So there were a few things that were already in the works before the coin went up in Hyderabad. Ben Stokes called correctly, decided to bat. I'll hand back to you now.
Yeah, we can talk through it before we get through the rest of it. So I jumped right in. If you haven't been following it, for some reason you didn't follow the game and watch it, just quickly, England has defeated India at Hyderabad by 28 runs. It was a little bit of a wild ride, to be honest. Early day one, when England was batting well, it felt like, oh, this could be a good match. And then when India batted, it felt like, great, this game's going to be over. We're going to win by a big margin. England fans feeling like, let's do whatever we can to avoid an innings defeat, etc. And then, of course, the tides turned. Phenomenal second innings batting performance from England, and India just couldn't chase it down. So, DJ, let's start before we get into it, as you do, with a little bit on selection. So the absence of Virat, as you mentioned, sort of meant obviously Gill at 3 with Jaiswal and Rohit opening, we had all called. But Rahul came in at 4, Iyer 5, Jadeja 6. And then Jadeja, Bharat, Ashwin, Akshar, Bumrah, Siraj, kind of as we called it, because we knew about the Bharat decision. Any surprises or disappointments with selection?
No, absolutely no surprises.
Okay.
I think that's the 11 that I gave you guys left
Yeah.
arm taking
I think
wickets
there
for
was no
fun.
question on paper if you can play Ashwin, Akshar, Jadeja all that gives you batting to 9, and it was the right selection. So let's not argue or get into that. Let's more talk about the game then. Day one, 246 in 64 overs, and then Jaiswal came out with some fireworks. So we had a little bit of Bazball, if you will, kind of aggressive strike rate, just under 4 and over. And then a little bit of Jaisball, or whatever we want to call it. Is Jaisball going to be a new thing? Where Jaiswal came and scored at 80 runs and above a run of ball. I mean, feeling pretty good at the end of day one, right, DJ? I think, yeah, overall pretty
Yeah.
positive. Rohit had gotten out,
Yeah,
but Gill was batting slowly.
Rohit got out to Leach for the seventh time, I think, in his career. Gill was getting himself in. He hit a lovely shot through mid
Yeah,
wicket. Jaiswal was just knocking it around, having fun. The break probably came. End of day's play probably came at the wrong time for India a little bit.
yeah,
I mean, let's just put it this way: Tom Hartley had scored some runs with a bat, 23 or 24, but
yeah.
his first ball, he bowled with the new ball. Let's not
Mm-hmm.
forget,
Mm-hmm.
England picked one seamer,
I
Markur.
mean, maybe we should stop and just quickly talk about that. Do we think that's happened before? Do we think, like, did that make sense to you? Obviously, in hindsight, it seemed like it was great. I was like, oh, maybe with something I don't know about Ben Stokes, and he's bowling again, so he can fit in second
Yeah,
seamer.
even I thought so,
But
but
he
he
wasn't,
wasn't.
and
Yeah,
no surprises there. They picked one seamer, 3 full-time spinners, if you will, and then Joe Root, who did more with the ball than the bat in this game. But
yeah.
yeah, what were your thoughts on that selection prior to going in? Obviously, I'll be honest, I thought it was a little insane, but in hindsight, it seems like it worked.
I mean, I don't know. Did Siraj take any wickets in this game?
Nope, zero. 0 for 28 and 0 for 22.
So is
So
there an
0.
argument to play Kuldeep in the next one?
I was thinking about that. I was going to ask you that. It's on my note saying, depending on what the pitch is, obviously,
Yeah.
and do you not bowl? I
I
mean,
mean,
Bumrah was.
Jadeja may be
And by the
injured.
way, first
Yeah.
time I think ever, or I don't remember the exact stat, but England had no seam wickets, and in a match where they took 20 wickets. So
Uh,
Mark Wood went wicketless, and the rest of like, what an unbelievable, a kind of
yeah.
unbelievable, yeah, and
And that's actually Bazball at its best in a way, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
so, I mean, we say it in a derogatory way, in a way, which is like, oh, they just come out and try and hit every ball for four. It's a little bit more than that, and maybe we should give some credit to this team. They've won a
Hmm.
lot in in tough conditions. Um, they've beaten New Zealand, they've beaten India back in England. Um, they've done well.
But
I
Ben
would,
Stokes rated this as his best win
but they
as
won in
Test
Pakistan
captain.
as well, 3-0. Let's not forget,
Yeah, yeah,
right? I mean, he says a lot of things are his best wins, right? Like he said
sure,
something absurd that he won recently, which was his best win. Maybe I don't know. He said
sure.
something which was not quite there, but every time you win, it feels like the best win. I think, but
Yeah, yeah.
it's doing things differently from your predecessors, right? And that is what this England team seems to do a little bit, which is they said we're going to come out and play the reverse sweep. I literally laughed and said, did you hang out with Alex Carey? Like, look what happened to him. They made a complete joke of him
Yeah,
in when he came to India
yeah.
earlier in 2022, just before the World Test Championship. He played the reverse sweep, kept getting bowled, LBW, clueless. They said we're going to do it, and look what happened. But
They did it.
they do things. They don't care about what's going on outside. Like I think the Indian team, there's a lot of noise around the Indian team all the time, right? Like there's now we'll find out who the match kamujram is, whether it's Rohit, whether it's KL, did Akshar drop the match? There's lots of this that's going to go around, and that's the Indian cricket fans' prerogative because we put so much into this game and into this team, and there's so much emotion into it. Like my mood's been destroyed this Sunday because
So
I woke
actually,
up thinking like it's going to be a great day. We're going to do what we do all the time, and when I saw we were chasing 231, because obviously I missed the first session because it would start at
yeah,
4 a.m. for me.
yeah.
I was like, okay, this doesn't look right. This is going to be hard.
So let me ask you before we get into the rest of the specific match, though. You mentioned the emotion and the ups and downs, etc. In the least sort of negative way, I don't mind this, and that's problematic in its own way. And actually, before we started recording, you were kind of saying the same in a sense that I there's an element of hubris a little bit that came into Indian cricket, Test cricket at home, and it also almost makes you appreciate, call it 2012 to 2023, the brilliance, the
Are you
magnificence.
Virat Kohli fan or something?
I'm no comment, but it almost makes you realize how dominant, like to be that
But
dominant is not, you can never take it for granted. And yes, the Aussies have done it at the Gabba before, and again today, arguably, or at the time of recording this, against West Indies, and we have India's done it at home. India said, "Yeah, cool. See you at the Garba, mate. We'll make spinning wickets." And And I mean, it's probably not a net bad thing for obviously, I don't like to lose. So please don't quote this and make fun of me in the YouTube comments and all that. Never like to lose.
No,
It's
make
never a
fun of
good
him in
feeling.
the YouTube comments,
Great.
please. We love the
But
interaction.
from the medium long term of it, now before the next test, which starts next Friday, there's going to be some soul searching. There's going to be some thinking. There's going to be hopefully some analysis from Dravid and Rohit. And like, I just feel like it. I don't know. What is your thought? I feel like it was maybe necessary at home a little, but as much as it's hard to say that.
So what I'll say is that I think I've seen that particular test match, the first half of that test match play out any number of times in India,
Yeah.
right? You take wickets with and you lose a toss. Say you get in, the opposition comes and they start off well. So they started off well. They got 40 odd with the ball,
Mm-hmm.
40, 50,
Mm-hmm.
60 for three very quickly. Then Jadeja spins one past Bairstow.
What a
Akshar spins
ball
one
that was.
past Bairstow's bat. And then Stokes plays a great knock with Hartley for company. He gets 70, which they're like, it's an above par score. This is going to be a spinning track, all of this stuff. Jaiswal comes out, just smashes it everywhere. You're like, this is a joke.
Great
India
batting
is going to
wicket.
make 400. Even when we literally threw away, Jaiswal got out to root. I mean, like, he should really be thinking about himself. But it pitched in the rough. It went up, fine, out. Gill didn't go on, flicked one to mid wicket.
Mm-hmm.
Again, got in, threw away his wicket. KL Rahul caught on the mid wicket boundary going for a pull shot of a short ball from Tom Hartley, I think. Shreyas Iyer hits one down to mid wicket as well, almost an identical dismissal. And the last three wickets put on zero. So at that point in 2024, India hadn't scored a run past the eighth wicket
Yeah.
because we lost 6 for none back in South Africa,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and we lost 3 for none over here. So 421 for seven. Sorry, four. How many did we end up with? 436, right?
Yeah. 436.
Yeah, so 421 for seven on at the end of day two, ended with 436 for seven. Jadeja goes, which honestly I think that was a turning point. That decision given out on field. I don't want to crib, right? But given out on field, he gets. There was doubt whether he edged it. There was doubt whether it hit it outside the line of off stump. Then there was doubt whether it was going on to hit the stumps. I'm like, surely the benefit of that doubt should have gone to the batter on field. Okay, I'm not
On
complaining,
field.
but
No, but on
it
field.
should have gone on. It should
100%
have gone
agree.
on field,
I
right?
don't think there's anything
How have you
according to the
given
way
that out?
the way the laws are written. I don't think the
Yeah.
third ump could have done anything. But
No
I
problem.
100% agree on field. That's true.
And
Now
boom,
there was
clueless,
probably.
Siraj clueless, over.
But by the way,
right?
on that Jadeja one, mentality wise, I'm sorry, we're going on a tangent. Do you think there's an element of the on-field ump saying, listen, I know that England have no reviews. They burned them super early. India has them. So if I'm 50.1% sure, just a little, where I normally would give the benefit of that to the batsman, is it makes sense to give the benefit of the doubt to the team who has no reviews left, because India could always review it. Now, it turned out we did, and it wasn't overturnable. But do you think that plays into the mind of an ump at all, that one team has 3 reviews left and one has not?
I don't want to impute malice into it, but maybe
Yeah.
there is a little bit of that. I don't
Yeah.
know, right?
Yeah.
But there was also, I mean, they burnt their reviews on day one.
Yeah.
Imagine being in Ben Stokes' position.
DJ, are you back? I think I might have lost you for a second.
I am back. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and it seems like your devices are fine. Yep.
Yeah, sorry. I was just saying. So Rehan Ahmed's never played cricket in India. You've Tom Hartley's a debutant. Jack Leach has got a swollen knee.
Yep.
You've played one seamer. Your captain can't bowl. I mean, everything is loaded against you at that point, right? Yet, and you concede 190 runs, Ashwin, on a track where you said 246 is above par, with possibly the greatest spinning attack India's ever had, maybe past the quartet that we had, the Bishan Singh Bedi quartet, of course.
Yep.
And you're staring at an innings defeat at that point, because how many teams have we seen just crumble in that situation?
Yep.
How many have we just seen that just crumbled?
I mean, at that point, you also start thinking about the next game. You're like, okay, fine. What are we going to change, etc. But not Ben Stokes, not Stokes as a skipper, and obviously, as we'll talk, not Ollie Pope.
Yeah, and they just come out, Ben Duckett, Zach Crawley, and start smashing it everywhere.
Yeah.
Ollie Pope, they lose a wicket. Ollie Pope then comes in. He does well. Actually, Bumrah's spell on that third day where the spinners were ineffective, going at over 5 runs and over. It could have been worse for India.
Yep.
Bumrah, world class that he is, started bowling reverse swing. I mean, he got ducked, didn't review it, Rohit, for
Yeah.
whatever reason.
Yeah.
And then said, you know what, I'm just going to have to hit the stumps. And that was a beauty. For Bumrah to take 4 on that track shows what a world class operator is. So we should acknowledge that spell as well. Which was
100%. Talk to me about the decision, by the way, in the Jadeja was bowling the 80th over, and it looked like he was just trying to go through the motions and get it done because they were waiting for a new ball, maybe more for Ashwin than for Bumrah. And Bumrah came back on for a spell in the 81st, and you could almost see him basically telling Rohit, "I'm going to keep it going with the old ball for a little bit." And then an over later, he got Rehan, and I think, yeah, I mean that ended up causing the end of the England innings. Like Tom Hartley obviously batted later, but talk to me about that decision and his ability to just know his strength with the reverse versus a new ball. Again, in a match where Mark Wood was completely ineffective,
yeah,
and so was Siraj.
and he was brilliant. I mean, he was by far the best quick on operation. He averages 15 and a half in these conditions now.
Unbelievable. I mean, he hasn't
And
played that many tests in
yeah,
India, but
and he
still.
hasn't played that many test matches in India, but I mean, he's one of the all-time
Yeah.
greats. And Varun, you remember when we picked our all-time great test 11 for India?
Varun had Bumrah, and he had
And
played
we
like.
literally laughed at his face. He's like, he's played 8 test
I,
matches or something.
I would like to defend by just saying we laughed because it was too early.
It was
But
ridiculous.
but
But
we could
what
all
a pick.
we could all see it being a great pick eventually. But
Yeah,
it was a little premature to make the pick
yeah,
already.
yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So
Yeah, but also let's talk about Rohit's captaincy in that second. I mean, Rohit's a great captain when things are going well, right? You saw that in South Africa. You've seen that previously. But to start off, even today on the final day, we lacked intensity.
mhm.
We lacked yesterday. I think after T, Jadeja and Akshar, who looked completely like useless, started off the proceedings, and we just leaked runs in that final session. Dropped catches, intensity went down, and that is where I miss personally Virat Kohli, the captain. He's not a perfect character,
Absolutely.
but those standards that he set, that if nothing else, you drop a catch, but okay, you go again. The intensity you bring to every ball, you can see Kohli in the slips would be up every ball. I think we just lacked that little bit of spark.
Yeah.
The shoulders went down, the runs were flowing, the catches were, I mean, we could still be
Yeah.
sitting here today, Ashwin, if Akshar
Yeah.
had taken that catch and if KL had taken that catch today, the one that he dropped,
Yeah.
we could be sitting here talking about an India win.
Yeah. A huge
It,
India win. Why does
it,
England even come to India
yeah,
anymore? What's the
yeah,
point of why is
yeah,
this 5 matches is going to be so boring? And
yeah. And it's to England's credit that they said we're going to play this way. We don't care about what you say, what you think, whatever the conditions are. We're just going to play this way. We'll need a little bit of luck. They got that, and they overturned the biggest deficit in the history of Test cricket in India.
incredible, right? Incredible scenes. So 190 run deficit. Ollie Pope with a tremendous, I mean, deserving of a double century, to be honest.
And
Ended
and
up
it,
getting
no,
out.
but that's the crazy part. How he got out
Yeah.
trying to scoop the ball over the wicketkeeper on
Yeah.
196.
Yeah. Didn't
They're
try to
not playing
knock the
for
singles
his.
around.
Yeah,
No.
he's not
Yeah.
playing for his milestone. I think Rahul Dravid was probably misquoted at the end of it, saying nobody got 100. I think what he meant was nobody went on and ground
Went
the
big. Yeah.
opposition
And now we're saying, oh,
and got
milestones
600.
and selfish
Yeah,
milestones and all that. Yeah.
he didn't get 600. India should have got 600 in the first innings and then just batted England out of the game. That's a very different story.
Yeah. So just to wrap, obviously, what happened? Phenomenal innings by Ollie Pope, 420 on the board. India needed, I think, 240 odd runs to win.
232, I think.
232, and just couldn't get there. Right. So again, Rohit looked decent, got off to a start as he tends to in Test matches, and couldn't convert. And then honestly, just really nothing to write home about from an Indian side. A couple of disappointments, which we'll talk. Shubman Gill being the big one, both innings. He looked okay in the first. I'll just call it a start in the first innings, and just absolutely tremendous from Tom Hartley, who picked up 7.
Yeah, and they played with 3.5 bowlers.
Yeah, yeah.
By the end of it, because Jack Leach, credit to him, comes out with a massively strapped like knee. Ben Stokes can't bowl, pulls off an insane backhanded run out from mid on to run
I mean, when
Jadeja
you
out.
can get Jadeja run out, yeah, yeah.
and
It's just
and
a
and
general.
gets Jadeja to pull his hamstring possibly in the process as well, which will have massive repercussions for the rest of the series. I mean, they England believed, and the moment you put more than 200 on the board on the last innings in India, it is hard. Yesterday, I was speaking to my
Yeah,
dad. He's like, "Don't worry, we'll get it. It's okay." I was speaking
yeah,
to another friend. He's like, "Chill, dude. We'll score the runs, whatever. It's easy." I'm like, "This. I've watched this team for too long.
yeah,
It's really hard to chase runs in the final innings in India. This is not. I mean, I can think of one exception, 387 in Chennai when India did that against England. But Sehwag got 83 of 68, and then Sachin scored 100, and the pitch was still fine. But like, it's not easy. The ball was keeping low, the ball was turning, and England were just absolutely on it, and India crumbled under the pressure. Post
yeah.
tea, it was
It was
brilliant
done.
from England.
Yeah. So I was trying to think through it. Again, phenomenal by Ollie Pope. Full credit where it's due. I think some standout performances too, right? 7 from Tom Hartley. Bumrah was great. And then credit to Jaiswal in the first innings. Rahul looked good in the first innings. We didn't really talk about it. But the way I was thinking about this, and for me, the magic of Test cricket, which is very different to T20, is across the 5 days there are the ebbs and flows, which and it's shifts in momentum, it's shifts in kind of energy, and what I think about is these like turning points in matches, right? There and there were several I can think of here, but I want to run a couple by you and kind of get your sense. It's hard in the moment to know, is this going to be a turning point? And that's a commentator's cliche when there's a drop catch or thing like that. Is this going to turn fortunes? But it felt like there were a few in this match, right? It starts, like I said, for me, Jadeja, obviously being given out when he was batting really well, and it being sort of an uncertain
He'd been given
decision.
out to twice before as well, which he'd
Yeah,
reviewed, by the way. So
yeah,
they were really after him for one of the
yeah. They
days.
were really trying to. I think then you get to the what you pointed out, which is no runs for the last 3 wickets, right? And kind of linked to that is not making 600, as Dravid said. Like when you're at 430 odd for 6 for 7, what was it? 436 for 7.
But it's not
You'd
even when you're
expect,
430 for 6 for 7. It's the way the middle order threw away their.
yeah,
I mean, they were trying to out Bazball for no
yeah,
reason. They just
yeah,
needed to grind England into the dust.
yeah,
Do what Joe
yeah,
Root did last time. Score 200 in 2.5 days.
yeah.
Easy.
So there's that spell, right? Jadeja gets out, not converting, etc. Then there's obviously the drop catch, right? And you mentioned the Rahul one, but more importantly, the Akshar drop catch early in Ollie
The
Pope's
lead was
innings.
only 67
Yeah, but then
at
there's
that point.
also, the. I think they made 80 runs after in their second innings chase. They were 300, excuse me, 339 for 7 when Rehan Ahmed, who was batting really well, when he gets out. And you're thinking, great. If India can close this out, they'll be chasing 150, 160, all set. And then in with, like you mentioned, in partnership with Tom Hartley, Pope gets another 79, 80 runs on the board. So to me, that was probably the turning point of the match. Now you can say it's linked to the drop catch, and there's no one answer to this. But to me, one exactly as you articulated, chasing 150 in India is not easy. Still not easy, to be clear.
Yeah.
Totally different ball game to chasing that above that 200 mark, which is a psychological uh, hill too. Or did I miss one? Was there any other point in this match where you look back and say this is where it turned for India?
I'd say the final turning point was probably the Bharat dismissal because they
Yeah,
clawed
yeah,
their way back in. And that's the difference, Ashwin, between a chase of 140, 160, 170, 180, and
yeah, and
above 200.
yeah,
230 is a tough chase because. I mean, we were looking like I was contemplating waking up at 4 a.m. towards the first session on Monday because
yeah.
if Ashwin and Bharat were still there, I was like, you know what? With 50 runs to get, and Ashwin and Bharat still there. Bharat's just coming off a first class ton, his first ever. Ashwin has got 5 test 100s. Ashwin is like the calmest, coolest guy, but like he just needs to give. I mean, Shreyas Iyer, disappointing. He needs to give these guys some tips on how to just keep it together, like just the way
And
Tom the
and
four
it,
over
and he needs to
the
not
mid
get
off.
run out in the first innings. Ideally, that was embarrassing too. That was
Oh
great to watch
man,
Jadeja and him. My favorite way is obviously is to try to figure out the bat, but my favorite's when both guys are at the same end and there's an umpire review. Like, listen, man, we know he's out. Just go at this point. I don't want
yeah.
to deal with this anymore.
No, but even
Yeah.
then, you saw Bumrah and Siraj. They edged and
Mm-hmm.
nudged and hit and slogged. They got 28 or 29 runs for the last wicket.
Mm-hmm.
So over time, I mean, like you've given away
Yep.
runs with the ball. Of course, so the bowling is failed. The batting is also, and it seems odd to say that the batting is failed when you've put a 190 run lead on the board, right? But that is Test cricket. There's an entire day left. What is your rush?
And when you say the batting has failed, if you were to try to pinpoint, and again, I know it's all of the above, so don't like. Obviously, it's hard to just say one, but you could either look and say the batting couldn't chase down 230 in the last innings and was played brash shots. You can also, to your point, look and say when you had the advantage, you didn't like. You have to make hay while the sun shines. You have to like when things are good, you have to pile on the pressure, and that not making 600 and batting England out of the game to me was the bigger loss than
Yeah,
I don't blame the lower order for not being able to chase. I blame the top order, which
yeah,
is a different discussion. But
yeah.
yeah, your
But
thoughts?
but but the question is, I'm going to ask you the tough question. Did India lose this match, or are we not? And are we not giving England enough credit for clawing their way back to what is an epic win? It's an epic win. Like just imagine overturning a 190 run deficit in England and coming back to win that game. I mean, we did that at the over. We overturned a 99 run deficit and came back and won that game. But 190 runs in England in Indian conditions is very different, right? So did India lose the game or did England win the game? And it shouldn't be all of the above because that's the actual true answer. But I want the controversial answer from you instead.
Yeah, I mean, I think England won the game. I don't, the easy thing to say is to point fingers and blame, and yeah, it's easy. But at the time, I thought this game was done. Like I thought 190 was not was not great, but it was enough. I thought it was
Yeah.
enough.
And we've
Like
seen
the
that test
spinners,
match play out so many
yeah,
times, right? You've
we
got
have.
three
I
tests.
like the way you articulate. I've seen this test before. I've
Yeah.
seen it before. We've seen this match before, where you'd back the spinners to take 10 wickets for 140, 150 and get it done
So,
by an innings, maybe.
yeah,
Or maybe you get England out for 250. Come on, Jaswal hit some quick runs and chase
yeah,
down 60 and call it
yeah,
a day.
yeah,
But I think England won it. That's a good question to ask, and obviously India did things wrong too. But I think England did win it,
yeah.
and I'm personally excited, for
How
the
good
fact
for
that
the
it sets up
series.
a
Yeah.
great series. Because I can tell you, even Varun was sort of like, man, what is like? Why are we playing 5 tests against a team that's not good against spin at home? And now you sit here saying there's something to look forward to. India is going to want to fight back. I think on
But
paper you still back our ability. So
I
yeah,
mean, I would. We lost the first test match in the 2021 series as well in Chennai
yeah, yeah,
on a decent track,
yeah,
let's say. Um, I guess the question for me is going to be we've lost against Australia. We've drawn against Australia. Now we've lost against England. These are the last three test matches we played at home, Ashwin.
yeah, yeah.
Right?
I don't. Yeah, yeah.
Are we seeing the end of an era?
I mean, I think to be honest, a little bit.
16 series
Yeah,
wins
yeah.
consecutively at home. No team has more than 10. We won 16.
It's a good
We've won
stat. I
them.
hadn't heard
Not
that one.
drawn,
Yeah,
tied, nothing.
yeah, yeah.
16 we've won
Clear wins. Yeah. I
at
don't
home
listen.
consecutive.
It's very easy to sit here on the day, and this at the time of recording this, it's only been a few hours really since the loss happened. So it's very easy to sit here and say, "Oh my gosh, end of an era, panic, etc." Do I think it's truly the end of an era? Probably the answer is probably like no, one loss or a couple of losses is just not the end of an era. Make however, yes, first series we've played in a very long time without either Pujara or Rahane. And when you add in Virat, I haven't looked at the numbers, but I can't remember the last time we fielded an
No,
11
but
at home.
Purane didn't play in Australia either. The Australia series, did
No,
Purane play?
no, but Virat was there. So I'm saying when
Oh,
you add
Virat.
in
Virat and Purane.
Pujara, Rahane, and Virat, now Virat's not done. It's not the end of his era, but when's the last time we had an 11 without any of those three? It's an
Mm-hmm.
interesting stat to look into. And then you bring in the Jaiswals and the Gills of the world. And yes, there's some young energy. There's this IPL players who've now moved into Test cricket energy. There's a run where Sky got given a chance in the Test squad, etc. So I think there's a big shift happening in it. I don't want to call it the end of an era, but I think there's a big shift happening. By the way, who's gonna like how old is Ashwin now? 36, 37? More? Who's gonna slot it? When
We'll
Ashwin
get that guy now who bowled to the Aussies, the
the
copycat.
same action.
We'll just get
That's
him
good.
in.
We'll just bring him. But you know what I mean. When you start looking at quicks, I think we have a decent amount of depth. When you look at our spin, who's going to come behind these top 20 spinners of all time type of bowlers?
Have you
And
been watching the Under 19 World Cup? There's
I've
a
been following a little.
Pandey, the guy, the left arm, slow
I
left arm
mean,
guy.
undefeated there and big win over the US this morning too. So good potential for the future. But so I don't. Long answer to your short question. I don't think it's the end of an era per se, but it is an important transitional phase. new keeper playing, not new, but you know what I mean, relatively doesn't play a lot, doesn't play overseas now apparently, but plays at home. Change in number three, a change in openers too. Like Jaiswal's still very new as an opener, and I think there's enough transition. I'm not panicking yet or ringing the alarm bells, but I do. I think it's probably good for this team to not think 16 series in a row means we're gonna win everything, and now let's try to figure out the how. It's actually no, you could lose.
Yeah, so I felt that there was a little bit of arrogance that we just
Yeah,
turn up,
yeah,
we bowl some spin,
yeah,
we'll score some first innings runs,
yeah, and we'll be fine. Yeah,
and that's how every test match goes to script. They'll collapse and we'll have 2 days off
yeah,
instead of one. Unfortunately, they're going to be sitting today going, what just happened? Like
yeah,
they got hit by an Ollie storm,
yeah.
and then they got hit by this debutant taking 7-4, which is just insane. So they got like
So debutant taking wickets and batting lower order and making runs. Did you get some Sam Curran vibes?
Shemar
Did you get some?
Shemar Joseph is
No,
the
no,
same.
that's something now. But
Them.
I guess, like, do you remember Sam Curran against us, lower order, just piling on the runs when we thought? Anyway,
No, but it was
DJ.
it was it, it's a tough loss to take, I think,
Yeah,
this one for the
yeah,
Indian team. But we should quickly talk before we move to other stuff on what
yeah.
we
What do you
think
do
of
next?
the what do we do in
Yeah,
the next
so
test?
four tests left, right? Next one is in Vishakhapatnam, then Rajkot, Ranchi, and Dharamshala to round it out. So I don't expect a lot of change in terms of the strategy, in terms of spinners and quicks. So I guess one we know, I believe, unless something's changed, no Virat for the second test.
Hmm.
And so then for me, if I'm with you, I don't necessarily change a lot of the batting order. I think maybe approach, intent, etc. And
So,
then
but
I
is
explore
Gill on notice?
who are you bringing in for him? Who's in the
Same
squad?
got
If
the
it's
likes of Patidar.
So sorry, I think a Gill is on notice when Virat comes back. If Rahul continues the nick he's been in after the century in South Africa and the 80
Yeah,
here, I think there's a world where you know
Rahul just bats three.
but you
Yeah,
can't keep moving around Rahul in the order. But fine, he could bat three.
yeah. But Rahul
And
could bat three long term as well. Maybe not
yeah,
when you go abroad, which is a challenge because
yeah.
he'll be keeping maybe. I don't know.
To answer your question, I don't think Gill is on notice. I think he's being given a leash to see him as a batter of the future. But yeah, I mean, I don't. Let's say 3 or 4 tests with nothing really to show for it. I think he will be on notice. And then I
Fair.
think the question mark is on Siraj. Right, Bumrah clearly showed he's a magnificent bowler in any conditions. But do you do what England did and bring in a fourth spin option? If Ash is opening the bowling with the new ball anyway, and probably most effective with the new ball, does a Kuldeep serve you better with a ball that's getting older?
So let's just talk through a couple more things. One, of course, Bharat did pretty well. How
Yeah.
much did we miss Rishabh Pant in that situation? But Jadeja may have an injury.
By the way, can we pivot that and talk about Ravi Shastri
Oh
talking
yeah,
about
yeah,
Rishabh
yeah,
Pant?
yeah. We should in
How?
the
Anyway,
Gabba
okay,
context
okay. Come back.
anyway.
Let's finish this test. We'll come back to that. Yeah.
But if Jadeja's unable to play Ashwin,
How
I
serious
mean,
are you thinking that is? Because with over a
eh,
week, with almost 6 days off.
well, if it's a hamstring strain, it depends on what
Yeah.
grade tear it is and all of that stuff. And he's had issues with his hamstring, I think,
Sure.
previously as
Yeah.
well. But let's in the hypothetical scenario that he can't play, Kuldeep comes in straight easy swap.
I don't think it's a straight swap because of how incredible his batting has been in the last couple of years. So,
Yeah. But
yeah, I'm now
Akshar didn't have a
seeing.
great game with the ball either. I mean, he took a couple of wickets, but he went for a lot of runs.
Yeah,
And
so Akshar at 9, by the way, is an unbelievable disservice to him.
yeah, but he
He's
batted up the
so
order in the second innings. He
yeah.
batted
So
five.
there's a world where you sort of make him bat at 6, even ahead of Bharat more
Mm,
consistently.
mm.
Bharat 7, Ashwin 8, and then yes, you could play Kuldeep at 9. But do you still play Siraj then, or are you starting to feel like Siraj, for as good a bowler as he's been overseas, is not, and in ODIs, has not been that force in home tests?
Not yet. He
Yeah,
hasn't really. He hasn't
yeah,
really done enough. I don't know what the pitch is going to be like because I saw the stat that the 5 Test matches India had lost since 20. Like we'd won 41 Test matches and lost 5 Test matches
okay,
since I don't know 2010 or something. It was
yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
And the degree of turn in the matches we lost was actually greater than the degree of turn in the 41 matches that we won.
yeah,
Which I actually wonder whether India is better served not panicking
yeah,
and going for rank turners
yeah,
because Leach is doubtful,
yeah.
Jadeja is doubtful. Back your batters
Yeah, listen, to an
to
extent,
score the runs.
a rank turner is
Brings
a
them into
little
the
bit of
game.
yeah, it's an equalizer, right?
Yeah,
As opposed to a pitch that turns a little but relies on batters who can
yeah.
make it work, and you give your bowlers the
Yeah.
credit that they don't need a rank turner to get 20 wickets.
Yeah, and never forget, Steve O'Keefe took 7 wickets in India as well, or 8 wickets.
Yeah,
I don't know. Where is he now? He's not an all-time great, is he? And I'm not saying Tom Hartley will
yeah,
fail in the next Test match, but
yeah.
Tom Best did pretty well. England won the last Test in the first Test in the last series as well. This, I
So
think, sets it up beautifully because this goes
yeah,
on till March. And while I'm not excited about the time zone because it starts super early for
yeah,
me,
yeah,
I am excited about Test cricket being healthy. It's good for these two teams to compete because India competed in England, whereas
yeah.
England was failing to compete in India.
Yeah, I think that's well said. It's going to be good for the two teams. I think I agree. Unfortunate for me, time zone is bad too. It starts 10 p.m. sharp, so I get to basically watch the first session,
Yeah,
and
the one
then
that I
I
missed.
yeah, it's just just highlights are just not the same with Test cricket because they show you the wickets and the runs, but the wickets typically are a function
Build
of the
up.
built-up pressure, and
Yeah.
so it's just not the same. But the joys of living parts of the world where it can be hard. DJ, going to Vishakhapatnam, there have been two tests there previously. 2016, India defeated England by 246 runs, right? Virat made 167. And then in 2019, India defeated South Africa by 203 runs with
Did
Rohit
Virat
making
got did
176.
yeah, he got another 100. Didn't Virat get 100?
No, that test, Mayank got a double. Rohit
Ah.
got a big century and then just again batted them out of the game. So two wins, two big wins. Both came batting first, though. I guess no question that India would win the toss and try to bat first. But yeah, what is your prediction? Do you think Jadeja sits out, Kuldeep comes in, and the rest of the batting stays the same, or do you
If
think
Jadeja's
he'll?
injured, I mean, I
Yeah,
think Kuldeep will have to come in.
yeah,
I think then Siraj will play. I I just hope there's no panic calls going out to the curators saying, give us a turner, give us a turner. Go the other way.
yeah. Listen, I think
Get a
if you
good
follow,
pitch that lasts
yeah,
5 days and back your guys to do the job.
if you're
You don't
following
need
the
to panic.
data, which hopefully they are with the analysts and stuff, that you shouldn't make that call. And
Yeah.
so, all right, DJ, lots to chat continued about India versus England, but it's time to go halfway across the world because the only thing that softens the blow of India losing a home test against England, the only thing is watching the Australians under Pat Cummins lose, or I guess let's put it differently, is watching the West Indies, who've become an underdog of Test cricket in recent years, arguably. A lot of infrastructural challenges, lots of trouble, a lot of players not even wanting to play for the national side anymore. West Indies team has just defeated the Aussies at the Gabba to tie up a two-test series 1-all, and just tremendous stories coming out of it. And you want to quickly recap for us the story of Shemar Joseph, another 7 wicket haul, injured, had a toe issue, and just I mean the moment. I've watched the clip of that final wicket of him getting Hazelwood bowled and sprinting off and hearing the commentators celebrate. I've watched it so many times now. What a day for West Indies cricket, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was fantastic. I mean, I started following the game when West Indies actually weren't bowled out on day one.
Mm-hmm.
They were, I think, 8 wickets down. I think Shemar Joseph got out in the last over of
Yeah.
that day. Joshua De Silva got 79. Um,
Joseph was. I think you're thinking of Alzari because just Shamar was not out
I was thinking of the
at
other
the end of it.
Joseph. Yeah, so
Other Joseph,
he
two Josephs bowling.
two Josephs. And then Australia go and they declare just short. I think Alex Carey plays a quick fire. Then quite a lot of trouble at one point, and then Alex Carey
Yeah,
scores some runs. And
yeah. By the way, what's the take on in a match where you lose by 8? What's the take on declaring with a
so
deficit?
that's
How many
just
times has that
that's just
happened?
hindsight being 2020,
I
right?
mean,
Like
listen, you don't think Hazelwood could have made 8?
no, but see, the point there is well,
While
he could have,
Cummins,
but he could have
while
also made a
Cummins is still
dub.
batting there is on 64 not out. Just farm the strike and make 8 more runs. I
Yeah,
know it's not how the.
but didn't England do the same thing against Australia and lose the first Ashes test?
I don't remember the
I'm
specifics,
pretty
but
sure they did.
I
And then
remember they've done it recently. Yeah,
Paddy Cummins was there, but this was for conditions, right? Because this is a pink ball test. Remember, don't forget.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
As you would have seen from the highlights as well, and they thought that their best shot of getting a wicket or an early wicket would be in the last session, right, with the
Yeah,
lights on and the ball
yeah.
flying around. And they did. They
They
got a
did.
wicket in that session. They were
They
13
got
for one.
Chanderpaul.
Yeah, and they were 13 for 1 at the end of that session. So I don't see it was a bad call. It looks bad in hindsight.
Sure.
But that's because again we are looking for match come with them, right? So
Yeah.
like the
I
Indian
love it. Yeah.
fans, we
Yeah.
we also the Australian fans do exactly the same. So I mean the guy who's won you the World Test Championship, he's won you the World Cup, but now he's declared in a random game at the Gabba, so he must be a villain. And also, he believes in climate change, apparently.
Yeah, the
So,
climate change is just great to watch. But
yeah.
anyway, that's a whole different discussion.
So I don't have an issue with that. I think it was a tactical declaration. It wasn't very far. He probably thought they're going to roll the West Indies over, and they nearly did. I mean, how many
So,
did they get in the
so
second day?
216 needed. Steve Smith is carrying his bat. Wickets kind of fall, and Steve Smith the opener, which is a different discussion, by the way.
Mm.
But wickets kind of fall at steady paces. Cameron Green puts on a good partnership with him.
No, but you've
Travis Head
forgotten the key part about this. In the third innings,
yeah,
Joseph, Shemar,
Shemar
not
Joseph.
Alzari,
Yeah,
gets a Yorker from Mitchell Stark.
and retires out. Yeah,
And it's a no ball as well, that ball, by the way. So he'd overstepped in trying to bowl that Yorker, and he retires out with what was a suspected broken toe at that
is
point.
he retired hurt or retired out? Or
I
does Rohit
think
care
there
if there's
was
a difference?
No, I don't care what Rohit thinks today. Pissed off. So he's not my friend.
All right. Anyway, so yeah, Shemar Joseph
Hmm.
broke, not broken, but injured toe, and
Yeah.
had to get treated. And it was actually very unclear for a long time if he could come back and bowl. And he comes back. The Alzari gets Khwaja out. Labuschagne then goes, and from that point on, it is the Shemar Joseph show. He gets 7 of the next 8 wickets, including, by the way, just a phenomenal ending period where Steve Smith is still on the other end, batting on in his 90s at the end of it, farming strike, takes a single off the 4th ball of Shamar's over, because sometimes you wait till the 5th. As much as possible, you'd like to get a 6th ball single, but you can't rely on that. So he took a single on the 4th, gave Hazelwood 2 balls to play, and there's just something about the ball clipping the top of off stump that's just.
I was thinking about this today. It's the Siraj ball to Anderson at Lords.
Top of off stump, and then just takes off sprinting. A tremendous celebration. I mean, clearly the Gabba's fortress has now been breached a couple of times in a few years, but just tremendous. I mean, there's just joy for the West Indies team.
Yeah.
If and when, hopefully, they become a force in world cricket all over again and have tremendous quick bowlers who you can't face, then I won't wish them well anymore. But right now, you're kind of rooting for the West Indies as a fan of the sport.
This guy's 150 clicks, boss.
Yeah.
With a suspected broken toe. We don't know whether it's broken or not yet. I think the doctor told him go to the ground and see how it goes. And I think he only came on to bowl when they were 113 for 2 or something, and just ran through everybody. You could see Brian Lara's played a lot of cricket. He was in the com box when
in tears.
It unfolded. He was in tears. Carl Hooper was in tears.
That Carl Hooper clip is great. If you haven't seen it, find it on social media. It's phenomenal. It's great to watch.
And then Craig Brathwaite says at the presentation, Mr. Rodney Hogg, you said we were pathetic.
1-1. Yeah.
He said, how do you like my muscles now?
Did he say that? I missed that.
Yeah.
What a line.
How big do you think my muscles are now, or something like that? But it was just
it's
great. Like it is just where the Gabba is like where underdogs.
Yeah.
Like India team C.
Yeah.
West Indies team B goes and beats like the World Test champion. It's insane. They're the reigning World Test champion, and they're not they are a full strength. They're a full strength side.
Yeah.
Travis Head, like World Cup centurion,
full strength,
first ball duck.
Yeah.
Mitch Marsh edges one, hits the captain in the chest, and it falls to Greaves. I mean, you can't make that stuff up.
Yeah.
And this is a guy. Remember, this is a guy who was making his debut last week or the week before, and he got Steve Smith on his first ball.
Yeah.
And then you go back and read Bharat Sundareshan's feature on him.
What a story!
Yeah. Have you read the feature?
Yeah, just summarize it for our listeners really
quick.
No,
it's absolutely insane. Like till 12 months ago, he was bowling with fruit, like actual fruit.
Yeah.
And he was a security guard. He worked in the logging industry. He had some accident, so he's like, this is too dangerous. I can't do this. I need to go back. He went out shopping for an arm guard with Bharat. And it's just, he's already said, like, I don't care how much money I get paid in the IPL. I want to play Test cricket.
For my country. Yeah.
Well, the West Indies being a collection of nations,
side.
I guess. He's Guyanese, I guess. But I mean, what a story, man. Like, for 2 guys to take 7 firsts on the same day.
Yeah.
And Hartley was a debutant. This guy's played his second Test match.
Basically a debutant, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, CSK versus Mumbai is great, right? It's
Yeah.
great. Like we love it.
Yeah. It's different.
But
It's just different kinds
you
of great,
can't
man.
you can't get this in a
No.
T20 game. The emotion, like he broke down in tears after taking 5 wickets.
Yeah. And then he got 2 more and won them the match.
Yeah.
I mean,
And then he just
just
sprinted
incredible.
like with his broken toe. He was, I suspect like he was pretty good at athletics in his young days.
You
In
could
his
see
young,
he
he
had
was
some
like
speed. Yeah.
speed. He
He
was
went
off.
off. So yeah, West Indies was ranked 8th going into this match versus Australia first, right? I mean, only ahead slightly or enough, but ahead of Bangladesh, Zimbabwe, Afghanistan, Ireland. Like among the major
Oh,
test playing sides.
so what's the World Test Championship table looking like right now?
Oh, that's a
Because
great
India
question.
must have been 2 and Australia must have been 1, and now we both lost today. So
Yeah, I wonder
cool,
what the latest is. Let me see if I can
no
pull that up
problem.
as we go. And by the way, I found the quote really quick. Craig Brathwaite said, I must say we had 2 words that inspired us in this test match. Mr. Rodney Hogg said that we were pathetic and hopeless. That was our inspiration. We wanted to show the world we're not pathetic. And I must ask him, are these muscles big enough for him? And then he flexed his biceps. I want to show what the world we're made of. The doctor told me that Shemar could do it, and I had to back him. He's a superstar. So
And
I think
I also want to call out our friends at the Caribbean Cricket Podcast because
they've been losing their minds. It's been great.
they've had a Gabba moment. We had our Gabba moment in
Yeah,
2021, right?
yeah.
33 years on your birthday, 19 January.
Yeah.
We can never forget that. And they've
This will be
had their
that day
Gabba
for them.
moment.
This will be that day for them. I can't think of a better note to end it on than that. I feel a lot better than I was feeling about India's loss to England because there's something about the West Indies' Gabba moment that's rejuvenated me.
And it's also because we're as happy for them to have won as we
Yeah,
are happy for Australia to have lost.
of course. Yeah, that's great. I mean,
And,
listen, all the English and the Aussies, I bet the great cricketer right now is celebrating India's loss. And that's how this goes. Like
yeah,
our friends all over who do podcasts in different parts, they celebrate India's losses as they should because when we're a dominant force, it's nice to see the king dethroned, if you will. And Australia has been that dominant force. And it's kind of nice to see them dethroned. That's what makes Test cricket so healthy. DJ, this has been fun. I'm glad. Thank you to everybody who's listening, who's joined us. If you're on YouTube, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, leave us a comment. We love to hear from you. We do our best to respond to all of them. If you're on any of the social medias, at One Tip One Hand, that's the number one tip, number one hand. Follow us. We try to be active as much as we can. But again, we love to hear from you and engage with every single one of you.
and vote for us on the podcast award. I think maybe it's over now, but we forgot to say that we'd
I
been nominated.
Yeah, thank you all
The
for
Sports
the
Podcast
support
Award,
that got
yeah.
us to. If it's still available, we'll post the link in the show notes. Please go ahead and vote for us. And that brings us to a wrap. Next week, by the time we record, we'll probably be mid-test match, so we'll see. We might be a little bit delayed with our episode to cover the entire second test match. This has been the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.